Alright, so today we're going to be looking at a different type of tier list. We're going to judge today, and feel free to disagree, on how good or bad each community is for each character. There's a lot of characters that have great communities, there's a lot that aren't so great. We're going to look at every single character and try to come up with our own judgment and see what happens. For all intents and purposes, I play Lucio, because no one knows who the hell I am. So if there's a bias, I only play Lucio, so you can't judge me. We're just going to go in this order. There's not going to be any specific things. We're just going to start right away with Bastion. Bastion players, in all of my experience, are one or the other. They're kind of middle of the road to me. But they're honestly so cute. A lot of them are just happy little guys to be there. Very oddly, you'll see a toxic one. I'm actually going to say that they're better than not. I'm going to say that they're about A tier. I think a lot of them are just funny. Just wave to everybody. They're usually pretty good. McCree. Oh boy. McCree, honestly, the people that play them seem like pretty good people. Like at least they're not like going for just whatever's on meta. But they do tend to have a stink to them. I don't know if that is right to say. But honestly, sometimes they're either just really rude or really kind. They're middle of the road. They're 50-50. So I'm going to put them in the middle. Speaking of 50-50, this one. Diva. Diva players, in all my experience, are either the kindest players or the most toxic. There's never an in-between. They're either really kind. Sometimes they're very jokey, you know, they always got their voice lines that they use, and if they get demeched, they'll say the sorry emote or whatever. They're always pretty good. Or they're just really toxic. Really toxic. Like, I knew going in she was going to be here already. She is the definition of middle of the road. You either got a really nice diva or the opposite. Just a toxic to both the enemy team and their own team. Oh, God. Genji. I'm afraid to talk about him, but I'm gonna have to. Genji, I have to say it, they're more often than not really bad. Like, you'll occasionally get a very kind Genji, but more often than not, they're either toxic to their team, they are toxic to the enemy team, because, and to be fair, to their credit, a lot of times Genji players get counter swapped. They go Moria, they go Zarya, they go Symmetra, you guys know. And they get countered, and then they start to get really toxic. So more often than not, Genji players are really bad. I don't think they're D tier bad. But they're close. Hanzo. Hanzo's a weird one. Because they're not necessarily toxic. They're generally pretty quiet, actually. They're neither. They don't really do much. They're kind of just in the match. The only time they really get toxic is if there's an enemy Hanzo. And they're usually toxic to each other. I don't know. They're just kind of nothing. They're just present. Junkrat. There are two types of Junkrat players. There's the really toxic. They're the second divas, basically. You'll get the Junkrats that are just very funny. They like to use their voice lines a lot, and they're usually pretty cheery. And then you get the really toxic ones. You know, the ones that didn't do much. They just they spammed with the chokes. They got a lot of damage, and they're like, everyone else was throwing because I have the most damage. And meanwhile, they have no kills whatsoever. They just spam the tank with damage, and they allowed the supports to get their ults, and they get killed. But yeah, they're kind of the same thing as Diva, in my opinion. Okay, I am a Lucio main, and this isn't a bias. You guys cannot disagree with me here. E is an S tier. Name a time you will always... Lucio mains, and myself included, are just there to make everyone happy. They always like to joke around. We're always just... We're there to have fun. No one can deny that that is an S tier right there. I don't care that I play Lucio. You cannot use that against me. That is an S tier community. That is an S tier community right there and there. May players. I didn't mean to move her, but taking out the bias that I don't like fighting May. I don't know. I want to put them here because most Mays are really nice. But then you really get the very annoying toxic ones. They're weird. Like I want to put them almost in between here. Cause they're not middle of the road. Mays are typically pretty good. Like nice wise. I'm gonna put like top of B. I think that's what it should ultimately be. Oh no. You know what? Let's just let's leave this one for a little while. Let's not talk about that one yet. Let's leave that one alone. Let's not worry about that. Let's not worry about that yet. We're not gonna go there yet. I still want to live to the end of this video. Farah. I gotta be honest. I'm sorry. I know this seems really. I know that seems harsh. I don't even have an issue with Farah. Realistically, I think she was bad for a long time. I just find that I've never met a kind Farah. They're mad when they don't get a pocket to their own teammates. They're toxic to the other team, oftentimes. I don't have anything good that I could say. They're usually mad at their own team when they don't play Mercy, and even if they don't play Mercy, if they don't get heals, they're very upset. Before this update where she had to land, she was in the air most of the time, and she'd be upset that she needs healing. They often spam the need healing, but they never land to get healed. Say if you're playing, I don't know. Well, for me, I play Lucio. Let's say they're playing Lucio Alari or Lucy Kiri. You know, they never land to get health, and they'd get mad at that, and I don't know. Just never had a good experience with a Farah, and I've met many. They're usually one of the most salty. Yeah. No thanks. And even after this update, still. Reaper. They nerfed his voice line recently that they don't allow you to it has to complete the whole thing out. That was unfortunate. It's unrelated, but I thought that was kind of funny that years into the game they finally did something about that voice line, which didn't need it, but to each their own. Reaper players are the same situation as these guys. They're either, you know, the funny voice line ones, or they're the toxic ones that'll kill people. They'll usually like use the pathetic voice line, just kind of being a runt. Yeah, I think they're here. Rhine players. More often than not, Rhine players are really good. Just in terms of nice-wise. They're usually very nice people. Even just playing the character just means you kind of want to be the guy protecting your team. The big shield, you know, get away from my team kind of guys. They're really good people. You just get the very odd ones that, you know, don't understand that Rhine is very weak when people know what they're doing. You know, they'll spam that they need healing, they'll blame their supports, but really it's just the character can't really survive in today's meta. It's not really the fault of anyone. It's just his tools are outdated for what the game is today. But more often than not, you have a really kind Rhine, especially his voice lines, especially just their charisma. Yeah, I'm confident in him. Roadhog. It's like here. I don't know. I don't want to be mean, but it's like here. I don't know which one to go in. I just don't think they're really that bad. They're not like super. They usually take care of themselves too. They just don't take care of their team, which isn't really. It's not what we're judging today. I think they're here. I don't know. They're not really kind. They're not mean. But they're not kind. I don't know. Very seldomly you'll get one, but it's the opposite of Rhine, I would guess. More often than not, you don't get that. Soldier 76. Ugh. Ugh. You know what, actually? I think they're pretty good. They typically take care of themselves. They always got the funny voice lines. You know, they don't beg for anything. They try to help their team. I've met a couple, you myself will do it occasionally. They'll drop health packs just to heal someone else. Good team player, nothing wrong with them. Pretty good community. Sim players. I gotta be honest, they're just there to ruin people's day. I don't even mind Sim, but you pick Sim. You know when people pick Sim. When there's a good diva, when there's a good anything, you just pick Sim just to ruin someone's day. They also share the same issue as Pharah. They complain when they're not pocketed. You know, when they're not getting all the heals, so they can just W key at everybody. They get very upset about it. And it becomes irritating for everybody. It becomes irritating for the enemy team to deal with her and her own team. Not a fan. Torb. Torb players are funny, man. Torb players are funny. They are always just funny. They're just to meme around. They are funny. You know what? I'm gonna do it. Torb players are just there to be funny. They between the voice lines, they're just running around. Even, some of them that try to go for a mallet kill, try to hit you with the hammer to try to kill you. They're funny, man. They're just funny. Tracer has the same issue as the people in the A tier. Really good community. It's just the odd time you'll get a really toxic one. But most times they're pretty funny. Very kind to everybody. Like to be funny. Like to joke around. They're really good. I would put her here, but you'll get the odd one that's just there to be rude. I don't know. I'm not saying that these people never have rude people. There's definitely toxic Lucios and Torbs for sure. It's just more often with these guys down here. Widowmaker. That is tough. Widowmakers get it really bad, which is why it's hard to blame them a lot of times when they get toxic. They get dove by everybody. If Zen had mobility, she'd try to flank the Widow. She has to deal with us Lucio people. She has to deal with dive tanks, Genjis, and the whole likes and Sombra, which we haven't even talked about, and Dooms. They get the short end of the stick. The community is really rude to Widowmakers, and more often than not, it's just them retaliating. But I think they're okay. I think they're here. I think they're okay. They're not mean by nature. I just think that the game, especially when you're learning Widow, and people are really mean to you at the start, and when you start getting good at Widow, you get dove more. You just have a bad time playing Widow, and I think that comes out more often than not. And it's not really necessarily their fault. But yeah. I don't think they can enjoy the freedom a lot of characters can. I think if they were less treated horribly, it'd be okay. But they're not mean by nature. I think they're mean by circumstance. Winston. I really, I have yet to meet a toxic Winston. Winstons are always pretty good. Really, there's very rarely will you find a toxic Winston. Winston community is, they're down to clown. The Winton memes are great. Nothing wrong with Winston. Winston's great. Zarya, oh boy. More often than not, people just play Zarya to counter something. I mean that nicely. But we're talking about Zarya mains, so people that just main this character. And again, I feel that they became mains to counter something. But the way that they are, they're typically okay. That's just it though. They're just kind of okay. A lot of them are selfish, so they'll only bubble themselves. I don't know. It's very rare to find a Zarya that you like to be around on either team. That's just my opinion. Zen mains. Now, in Overwatch 1, if you were a Zen main, you were just dove all the time. You were the dive target, you were the one that everyone bullied. You were kind of the Widow before Widow. Even though Widow was also in the game, I'm just saying. However, I want to say they're here. Same thing as Widow. They're either really kind to people, or they're just really mean. Even to their own team. Like, a lot of them will say, oh, I got more kills than my DPS, and yada yada yada. Yeah, they're kind of... But a lot of them are just very genuinely good-natured people. I think they're okay. They're middle of the road. Ana mains. Everyone loves Ana mains. Ana mains are great. They don't really have shit. There's not really a toxic Ana main. Like, the most toxic Ana gets is, like, if you fail her nano, she probably will never nano you again. But there's also forgiving Anas. I don't think there's anything wrong with the community. Realistically. Sombra. You guys know where this is going. I think you know where this is going. I don't even want to put her on the chart. I think you guys know where Sombra's gonna go. But since we have to put every character on there, let's just put it here and be done with. I think Sombra mains only like to ruin people's fun. If there was a bottom pick, like if I had to choose right now what is the most toxic community, it is probably Sombra. You know, it gets us bats like when they spawn camp Mercies or very seldomly. I'll give them a little credit. There's the funny Sombras, that voice line invisible behind your team just to bug you a little bit. There's a couple good. There's a couple green apples in the red basket, but no, I'm sorry. Orisa mains. They like to protect their team. They're usually very kind to their team. I don't think that there's anything wrong with Orisa mains. The reason I'm not putting them in the S tier is because they're typically mean to the other team. A lot of them, like, you know, the term tank diff, it usually comes from these people. And it's because the character is designed to just screw the other tank. And it's not really fair. But other than that, they're pretty alright. Oh dear Jesus. Doomfist. I gotta do it. Doom has one of the worst communities I think I've ever seen. Not just in game, not just the way they treat their teammates, not the reason they treat the other team, but even just online. All they do is come whine about their character and this and that and the other, and it's. But you know what? I know what everyone will say. They have the Endase all the time, and Yeah, you'll get a funny Doom, and they're great that way. But the community as a whole, on average, is really poor. They're also one of the people that complain for healing the most. Meanwhile, they're halfway across the map, and the rest of the team is fighting on point, and they can't reach him from there. They expect their team to have the mobility that he does, so that they're just moving with him as he goes, and that's just not how it works. They're also the people that will often spam the thanks emote when they die, even though it was the fault of their own for again being on a different map altogether while we're fighting on point. Yeah, not a pleasant community. Moria, much of the same. I'm sorry, Moria community. They're the type of people that say, well, I had to DPS because look at our DPS. They're, 5 and 6, and I'm 13 and 2. Yeah, but you have 1,000 healing and 8,000 damage. They'd probably be able to get more kills if you, helped them. They're. I'm not even just talking about DPS Morias, by the way. I know there's Morias out there that heal. I'm very aware. I'm just saying the community has a bad take for a reason. It's because a lot of them, they'll choose support and they'll want a DPS, and it's just not fun for anybody. It's not fun for the enemy team. It's not fun for your team to be down a healer all the time and then have them complain that you're not getting kills, even though you can't because you're dead. Yeah, just no. Honestly, these three are the big ones. Brig, they're just a protector, more often than not. A couple of them you'll get a couple mini Reinhardts, and then they die. But a lot of them are just protectors. Honestly, they like to protect their team. I don't see anything wrong with Briggs. Briggs is usually a pretty good community. Honestly, yeah, I'm gonna say it. Wrecking Ball. So all the 4 people in the Wrecking Ball community. Now, put away the bias that you have that in most cases, yes, it changes in high level. In most cases, you have a Wrecking Ball that doesn't do anything. But they're not really mean. A lot of them play Wrecking Ball because they like Wrecking Ball. And it's not really their fault that the character isn't very good. Well, it wasn't. They're good currently, it's just they weren't for a long time. And they're typically alright. They take care of themselves, they do their job, they have their own fun. They're kind of like playing their own game. They're pretty chill people. I think they're okay. Ash. Now, Ash community is interesting. It's not like they are inherently bad, and they're not inherently good. I think they're more often than not, though, mean. I think they're meaner than usual. I think they're I don't know about this one entirely. I think they're okay. I think they're 50-50. But I don't think they're up here or here. Bap. I'm gonna do it. Baptiste is Moria Light Edition. You'll get those Baps where they don't even bother healing all game. They just go and play Bap 76. They go and do damage and use their abilities to heal themselves and protect themselves. And any healing you may have got from the Bap would have just happened when they hit their burst to heal themselves and you happen to be around. Yes, there's Baps that heal, but this isn't what that's about. It's just typically they're not a fun community. Again, they got the Moria syndrome. They complain about their DPSs not getting kills, and they have this many and you don't have that many. Meanwhile, they're not healing them. They're not protecting them whatsoever to allow them to do that. and you know, you tell them to heal, they don't, and then they'll get pissy when you get pissy with them. It's just more often than not, they're not D tier because again, there are good BAPs that like to take care of their team and can get kills. They're not inherently all bad. And no, I'm not saying that all Morias are like that. It's just way more often than BAP than not you get, you know, those Morias. Sigma. Sigma. They're like here. They're like there. They're just kind of present. A lot of them have their funny voice lines, their party guy one and stuff like that. They like to be a good team player. They like to protect their team. They're really good at it. They're just not anything. They're kind of like Hanzo. They're just there. I don't know. They don't really have a presence in either way. Echo. I think Echoes are pretty good. Echoes like to have the emotes. Echoes like to, you know... They're always the ones that kind of say hi to everybody. They don't really care if they're a lot less like Pharah. They don't really care if they're pocketed or not. They can take care of themselves. They're not really mean to anybody. Like, occasionally you'll get a toxic Echo, but it's not common. I think they're pretty alright. Sojourn. Yeah, middle of the road. They are either very nice or they're nothing. They're not necessarily toxic. This is why she's not here. They're just either, you know, they're nice to say hello. Croissant spam is always funny to deal with. But that's all I could really say about Sojourn mains. They're present and they're typically okay. Sometimes they're really mean. Like, sometimes they do have a bit of the Pharah syndrome where they're mad that they don't have a mercy pocket or something, because that's usually the pairing, but nah, it's not that common. Junker Queens. I actually think they're alright. I actually think they're okay. I think more often than not, Junker Queens are pretty nice. Really, I do believe that more often than not, they're pretty nice. Yes, I know there's a couple of mean ones that, you know, I need healing, and they blame their team a lot. But more often than not, I think that she's pretty okay. I don't really see that as normal. Kiriko. Now this one's rough. I'm gonna say here. I think Kirikos are more often than not really kind people. Really kind people. They got, you know, they like to have fun most of the times, and they're usually really good at appealing for their teammates. They're really nice to everybody. They're the GG type. Toxic Kirikos aren't that often. I think their community is really nice. I think that's fun. Ramatra. I don't actually necessarily know what to do with this one. They unfortunately follow the same syndrome. They're just present. They don't really have a presence. Yeah, they're just kind of there. They're just there. Yeah, that's all I could say. Lifeweaver. Lifeweaver has a pretty good community. I think they have a pretty good community across the board. You'll have so many good people that play Lifeweaver. You'll have the trolly ones or the jokey ones. You know, they'll life pull you for you know, at the start of the match just for fun. They got the voice lines. They're there to just help. That's all Lifeweaver does. Is they're there to help. They want to be able to heal their team, and Lifeweaver does that well. I think they're a good community, honestly. Yeah. The only thing that keeps them out of S tier, I would say, is they're also the community that's will look too much at the scoreboard. They'll say, "Oh, look, I have all this healing and my DPS still can't kill anything." And it's like, well, yeah, but they have an auto that's just nading them, and it makes your input useless. No. Anyway, Ilari. Ilari kind of plays on her own team. At least in my experience, Ilari's kind of play on their own team. It's not inherently a bad thing, especially if they're good at it. It's just a lot of times they're just kind of playing for themselves. If that makes sense. Like, they'll forget to care for their teams. They'll just kind of try to do things on their own. They're not really a team player a lot. But it's not always. I think it's between here. But I think these are far worse. So I'm going to put her here. Malga mains. Oh. It's tough. Because these ones at the bottom are really bad. And you know what? I'm going to make an adjustment. I think she's here. I think she's here. I think they're not as bad as these ones. No, I'm sorry. I can't do it. Malga. Here's the thing. Malgas are stuck in release Malga. They believe that all the healing resources should go to them, and they'll just do everything. And the minute that they're not getting all the resources from both healers, they get angry. They just get upset. And yeah, it's kind of annoying. It was the most annoying thing when Malga was released, that they expected all the healing resources to go to them because it was the only way to keep him up. But it is equally annoying still that you can't really keep him up these days, and they still expect it. But it's even harder now with the new passive to do that, and it just doesn't matter to them. You know. They're often the tank that will spam thanks when they die. Meanwhile, they were, you know, wide out in the open, not playing cover, just machine gunning, hoping that their healers will just give everything to them. It's unfortunate. Mercy. Well, that's all the time I have right now, and, no, okay, fine. Oh... Mercy is the most terrifying character to rate. Mercy mains. Mercy mains. Hear me out. Because you guys know this as well as I do. You're not all angels. A lot of you are. A lot of you are. A lot of you are. But you ain't all angels. No way. No shot. Oh god, what do I do here? Can I end the video? I want to end the video. There's a lot of toxic mercies, but there's also a lot of really, really kind ones. She's rough to say. I don't think she's on the level of Diva. I don't think she's like the 50-50 like Diva is, where it's you're either really toxic or really kind. I think they try their best most times. Oh my lord. They are there for support. They're there to support their team. A lot of times they can also do the opposite, where they just determine you're not worth supporting and they don't even try anymore. I've seen it happen with a lot of people. They don't even look at you, they just pocket whoever they want, and even when they die, they don't even look at the other person, they just ignore them all game. I've seen it happen. Mercy's also a character that will give up a lot, but they're also really kind naturally. Mercies have this weird thing with other mercies. They're either really kind to each other or they'll just try to gun each other down every time they have Valkyrie. They're typically toxic to other mercies, which is a funny thing. Okay, to complete this, I'll leave her at the bottom of A tier. I think that that's the correct way to do it, because more often than not, mercies are very kind. I think that their community has definitely had its red apples, but I think that right there is the best, most accurate I can give. If you guys disagree with any of these, please feel free to let me know. Mercy Mafia, do not kill me. I apologize. You couldn't make it into the S tier. There's no chance. There's just no chance. I am sorry, but no, there's no way. But if you disagree, let me know, and let me know why. Let me know if any of my reasoning seemed off, and I will make any adjustments if needed. Thank you so much, and this is my tier list. Bye-bye.